إن الحمد لله إن لله الحمد نحمده ونستعينه ونستغفره ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا ومن سيئات أعمالنا من يهده الله فلا مضل له ومن يضلل فلا هادي له وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله ثم أما بعد عن أبي هريرة رضي الله عنه قال قال رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم من كان يؤمن بالله واليوم الآخر فلا يؤذي جاره. وفي حديث من كان يؤمن بالله واليوم الآخر فليحسن إلى جاره. This hadith refers to neighbors. And who doesn't have a neighbor? Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wasallam said, من كان يؤمن بالله واليوم الآخر. Always when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants to attract attention, لجذب الانتباه، للتحفيز على العمل، للترغيب والترهيب، دائما يذكر الله سبحانه وتعالى الإيمان باليوم الآخر. فالإيمان باليوم الآخر يحض على العمل. When you believe in the day of judgment, it encourages you to work so you can get the promised reward. And it makes you refrain from evil to protect yourself from the promised punishment. And we know that in the pillars of Iman, believing in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is number one, and everything based on that. So the second most important one is believing in the day of judgment, because this is where the accountability starts. This is where you end up in heaven, inshallah, or hell. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala protect us. So the Prophet ﷺ is attracting your attention and showing you the importance of what comes after. Do you believe in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? Yes. Do you believe in the day of judgment? Yes. Then pay attention to what comes up. Don't harm your neighbor. Don't harm your neighbor, we call that takhliya. Takhliya is to vacate your heart or yourself from evil actions. Now, takhliya by itself may not be a compliment. He's not a bad person, but that doesn't mean he's a good person. So that's why the other hadith came and said, anyone who believes in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in the day of judgment, he should do good to his neighbor. This is tahliya. Tahliya, to beautify yourself and your heart and put in it something good. So don't harm your neighbor, rather be good to your neighbor. So if you are indifferent, meaning you have a neighbor, you're not harming him and you're not doing good to him, are you good? Based on this, you're not. You're not. Because you have two relationships, one with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and one with people. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, وَأَحْسِنْ كَمَا أَحْسَنَ اللَّهُ إِلَيْكَ. أحسن لمين؟ للناس. So this is a relationship with people. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala commanded you to be muhsin. And we said before, what is muhsin? A person who is not only good to himself, but he is good to others also. He can be a wonderful person, taking care of his family, taking care of himself, but he comes to the masjid and goes from the masjid, he has nothing to do with other people. That's not muhsin. So muhsin, you exceed the limit. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, His messenger said, فَلْيُكْرِمْ جَارَهُ يُحْسِنْ إِلَى جَارِهِ, and the other one, to not harm your neighbor. And how can you, and there's another hadith, there's so many hadith relating to the jar, that this, the third hadith is, من كان, شو الحديث, من لا يأمن جاره بوائقه. شو بدايته؟ خاب وخسر. A loser, a person whose neighbor is not free from his harm. So here he said, don't harm him. Be good to him. What a loser if you harm him. Even if you don't harm him and you're not good to him, you're not that good. But if you harm him, then you are definitely a loser. And the Prophet ﷺ said, لا زال جبريل يوصيني في الجار حتى ظننت أنه سيورثه. Yani the jar was, according to this hadith, the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ thought that because Jibreel alayhi salam kept telling him, take care of your neighbor, and encouraging him with so many different ways to take care of the neighbor, he said, this is it, he's going to give him a share of inheritance. And we know inheritance is not but to the blood relation and the people who are so close to you. So this is to say that the neighbor is so close to you, it's like he is one of your close relatives. And you don't understand how good to be next to a good neighbor unless you have a bad neighbor. Wallahi, yani, I could tell you this is like a bad spouse. You come, you pull over, you have a problem. You pull out, you have a problem. You park here, you have a problem. You speak, you have a problem. Somebody banging at your door, somebody is calling the police, what kind of a life is this? So that's why one of the righteous predecessors, when he wanted to move, his neighbor loves him so much, I don't remember the amount, but it was big. It's like 1 million dirham or something like that. When he put his house for sale, his neighbor gave him that amount. It could be even more, so he won't move. Anything that comes to money, you're willing to take the chance. How do you know that you're going to have a bad neighbor? And then you save yourself that, and then until you get that, wallahi, I should have done it. Wallahi, I know. It's your fault. No, I didn't. No, it's you. We start blaming. But those people, this is like charity. Charity, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala promises you the return. And the return is not small, it's big, 10 times. How many of us really have confidence to give and really expect that and continue on giving? Most of us, we say we believe, but in reality, very few who really act upon that. And when we remember Abu Bakr as-Siddiq radiallahu anhu, Umar ibn al-Khattab radiallahu anhu, this one all of his money, this one half of his money. Yani how many of us would get to that? I know you're going to say there are Sahabi. Abu Lahab is a Sahabi, right? Yes or no? Brother, behind you. Why he's not Sahabi?
He never became a Muslim.
Nah?
Abu Lahab.
He's not a Sahabi?
He said he never became a Muslim.
Asad al-Usud, what do you think of what he said?
I think same. He never became Muslim.
Okay, how about Abu Lahab?
Abu Lahab, same thing.
Which one is the uncle of Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam? Abu Jahl or Abu Lahab?
Both
Both of them. So Abu Lahab and Abu Jahl brothers?
cousins. Abu Lahab, I think, is his uncle.
Okay, which one you hate more?
Both.
Sahabi is a person who lived to see Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, believed in him, and died on that. So he's right from that aspect where he did not become a Muslim. So when you have Sahaba of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and we know their relationship with the neighbors and how the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam does, we look at ourselves here. How can you harm your neighbor? You harm your neighbor by loud music. But mashallah, all of you astaghfirullah, right? No music in your houses, alhamdulillah. So how can you harm him, Sheikh, with something similar to music? I mean, in the sense of bothering. Yalla ya Sheikh.
Parking on his spot.
That's music, right? So you usually have someone hold on your horn while you're parking?
Sheikh, when you park.
Sheikh, young man, inti, how can you harm your neighbor with something similar to music? Quran, ya Sheikh. Yeah. Oh, you're not bothered, mashallah. Iman wasl عندك. So if your son wakes up before Fajr and jams the Quran to Abdul Basit Max, you would stretch in the bed and you say, La ilaha illallah, it's time to wake up, right? So yeah, you can bother your neighbor with Quran. You can bother your own family with Quran. You can bother people with adhan. That's why it's not the sunnah to have loudspeakers outside. I know we when people talk about that, we argue and we fight. And well, you have sick people, you have kids. You don't want to wake those people. They're not supposed to be awakened. So if you want to wake up, you wake up. You don't need someone to scream in your ear to wake you up. So adhan is supposed to be on the house, but not with loudspeakers.
So if I have a customer in my car, like usual, driving people, and the adhan come in and say Allahu Akbar, and I just put my finger and delete it so I can hear it later on, not with the people. Is I do haram?
Is this what I'm talking about?
No, I'm just saying, is this haram if I just like delete it or just for later on? I don't want them to hear the whole adhan and then I have to explain for them like this is my door, pray, blah, 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 blah.
For whom?
For not believer, they are with me in my car. I do transportation.
Oh, okay. Yes, you explain to them, yes.
So I let them hear it?
It's better to explain a little bit. You say, excuse me, brother, this is an adhan. I'll explain to you in 5 minutes.
Sometimes I say that, but I don't let them hear the whole adhan.
So what's, I don't know what's your argument.
The Abis say Allahu Akbar, then you have choice. If you put your finger on it, it's gonna.
طيب. I know.
If you not touch it, it's gonna quit.
What does this have to do with what I'm talking about?
You say adhan is harm the people.
This is what I said.
You said music.
لا حول ولا قوة إلا بالله. We finished from that. That's a new subject, brother. The music is another thing. I said something similar that can annoy people. If you turn your Quran loud and you bother your neighbor, what are you supposed to do? Keep it on? That's what I'm saying. Anyway, so you bother him with the Quran if it's too loud. You bother him with fence, for instance, your kids playing in the yard, climbing on the fence, looking, backbiting. You can يعني أذى الجار يكون بالفعل ويكون بالتسبب. You can actually harm him or you can cause the harm through someone else. You can incite your kids to do something. You can talk about their shortcomings to other people. You can be telling people left and right, I have a neighbor, he does such and such, and I have a neighbor, you have such and such. So you harm the neighbor in so many different ways. And the Prophet ﷺ said, it is wajib. Anytime you say you're not a believer in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, in the day of judgment, if you do such and such, that means that portion that comes, it is, Ya Shabab, I can explain to you the, inshallah, dars after that, inshallah. That portion is wajib, iman wajib, you have to have it. If you don't have it, you are sinning. You see, anything that من كان يؤمن بالله واليوم الآخر فليكرم ضيفه. If you believe in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala on the day of judgment, then be generous, hospitable to your guest. So that means if you're not, your iman, the wajib iman, the part that you must have faith, just like having the 6 pillars of iman, is short and you are sinful, because taking care of your neighbor is wajib at least 1 day or 3 days, I think. To take care of your neighbor, food and drink and sleep and everything. And this is basic in the generosity of the Arab at that time. It's not even Muslims. Anyone will take care of, will not even ask him. Can you imagine? You don't even ask him, who are you, or what do you want, or what's wrong with you, or anything. Just he would come and tell you, I need to stay the night, or something like that. You welcome him. I know you're gonna, all of that things, especially you, brother. You're worried so much about this life as if the guest is gonna kill you, right? Well, if he kills you, it's written, so it doesn't matter what you do, he's gonna kill you.
Except weekends.
Well, that's another pillar of faith called believing in what? قدر. شو أنت حافظ 6 pillars of إيمان وفيش تطبيق؟
طبق الحمد لله.
Okay, so we believe in that, and we need to take care of our neighbors. Brother, honestly, does your move your head أحسن ما تولع فيه. Brother, you know your neighbor's name? No.
I don't.
Does he know your name? No. You? No. Hardly any of us know them.
I know Carl.
And we call ourselves Da'iyah. So you come in here and let's brother and meet ourselves and meet our brothers and invite them and tell them about masjid and salah and Sawm and hajj and lecture and everything, and the one next to us dies and you live next to him for years and he doesn't know anything about Islam. Wonderful people. You know, sometimes we exaggerate so many things, we push so. Yeah, it's like we take one aspect of the religion and we make it the whole religion, as if you're not doing this, you're not a good Muslim. And we neglect other aspects of religion, which is so important. Your neighbor, how hard is it for you to introduce yourself? It's not hard. Wallahi, it's not hard. And you will be surprised. Inti, how many times you feel uncomfortable when you meet your neighbor, you go to your car and he goes to his car and no one talks, or maybe from a distance, hi, and you live and you couldn't say. This is definitely not what the hadith is saying. Most of the people, either they don't have anything to do with the neighbors, or they might even say good things about the neighbors, but do they know them? No. This, inshallah, opens doors. I'm hoping that each one of us would go and introduce himself to the neighbor. You never know. Wallahi, brother, wallahi, some people dying for Islam. And it is always good. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will not, did he say Muslim neighbor? He didn't say. Jar, any jar. In fact, if you were to look at the neighbors, their rights, some of them make it 4, some of them make it 3. If the neighbor is your relative, he has the right of relatives, and he has the right of being your brother from Prophet Adam and Hawa, and your brother in Islam and your neighbor. That's 4 if he's a relative. If he's just a Muslim, he has the brotherhood of Islam right, and the right of being the son of Adam and Hawa, your أخوة الإنسانية، الأخوة الإنسانية والأخوة الدينية وأخوة القرابة والجار. And the other one is neighbor. If he is not Muslim, he has the أخوة إنسانية. Adam and Hawa is his father, and just like you. And at the same time, he is your neighbor. So if you look at that, there's so many rights. And most people, when you slaughter, when you make udhiyah, or when you want to give something, you go look for everywhere in the country and you forget your neighbor. عائشة رضي الله عنها قالت لا تحقرن جارة لجارتها ولو فرس لشاة. A neighbor should not belittle the gift of her neighbor, even if it's the hoof of a sheep. Is there any meat on the hoof of a sheep? Nothing. But as long as she made some soup on it and she thought of her, then that's nice. People used to increase the water on the soup so they can give to their neighbors. Our neighbors, they probably never heard of biryani. And if they heard about it, it's restaurant. Biryani, Afghani, it all rhymes, brother. When was the last time you fed your neighbor?
2 years ago.
2 years ago. See, he's honest. At least he fed him. انت شو تعطيتهم أكل صومالي? No. Wallahi, seriously. Wallahi, we need to pay attention to our neighbors. And imagine the day of judgment when someone meets you and that person may be destined to go to hellfire. And then he would come and grab you and he said, I met you, I worked with you, you were my neighbor, you know me, I know you, you never told me anything about Islam. What are you going to say? Brother, I thought you would have M16 and you start shooting. Allah al-Azim, I don't know. Say it. If he likes it, likes it. La ikraha fi din, you don't force anybody. You don't want to go to Jannah alone. I mean, we want the whole world to go with us. That's the beauty of Islam. We don't monopolize Jannah. We want everyone to go, the whole world. In fact, if you don't want that, you're not a good Muslim. We want goodness to other people. That's the beauty of Islam. You're not a believer. You're not a true believer unless you love for others what you love for yourself. That's our religion. Start with immediate people, and the next to you is neighbors. And instead of traveling to another city, start with your neighbor and move on that street. Advice, inshallah. You know, Thanksgiving is coming, so don't take any of that good stuff with you. You know, just go with your spirit and everything, and inshallah, we'll hear some good news from you, brother. سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك. How many people أسلم معك بالسيارة هاي اللي بتلف فيها؟ الله أعلم ولا واحد. سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك أشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت أستغفرك وأتوب إليك. إن شاء الله يعني.
One lady, she asked for CDs one time.
ما شاء الله. We'll give you more إن شاء الله. سبحانك اللهم.
جزاك الله خير.
Yeah.